Hey everybody, welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We are back here on YouTube. We have another episode of the K2N Vlog. This week is a very special episode of the K2N Vlog because it is number 52. We have had 52 consecutive weeks of the K2N Vlog, meaning this is the 1-year anniversary of this format. The vlog has been an excellent resource and outlet for myself as a content creator to connect with you all, the audience, and talking about current events and whatever is on my mind. This has been a very successful series. The vlog series is an evolution of the podcasts that we have here on YouTube. If you want to look up our podcast series, it got very difficult trying to hunt people down and convince people. And ultimately, I got to the point where I was begging people to come onto the show to talk. And that wasn't very fun, right? So being able to just come in here and talk about what's on my mind gives some of that outlet without all of the work that was involved in constantly looking for guests that were interesting. I like to think that the podcast will make a reappearance in the future. I just have to find people that are interesting to talk to. And again, it has piqued my interest to put all the time and effort to make that happen again. But for the most part, the vlog episodes have been very easy to make. The view count is incredibly high comparatively. And so it has been a great transition this last year. And speaking of subscribers, we are up to 7,000 subscribers here on YouTube. We're on a trajectory to hit about 10,000 within the next year. So thank you all so much for subscribing and supporting the YouTube channel. I never thought the YouTube channel would get this large. The outreach worldwide in all the different paddle disciplines and all the different skill levels has been much greater than I've ever anticipated. So again, thank you all for making this possible, and we're excited to hit the next milestone at 8,000 subscribers. K2N is getting Marine Generation style race paddle jerseys made. The design is found right here. This is the front, you have the back, the strips between that is the side panel, and below that is short sleeve and long sleeve. If you would like to pre-order them, it is free shipping, so let me know what size you want and where to send it. Racerback, sleeveless, and short sleeves are $45, and with free shipping, that is the total cost to get it shipped to you. And the long sleeve is $50 for the women's cut and men's cut. After the pre-order sale, they will be $45 and $50 plus shipping on top of that. If you want to save on the shipping cost, now is the time to grab one. If you want to wait to see what they look like before ordering them and paying the not pre-order price, please send me a message if you're interested so I can try to stock a size for you. With racerbacks, sleeveless, short sleeve, long sleeve, men's cuts, women's cuts, it can get tricky trying to stock so many different models in different sizes. Just trying to get 2 or 3 of each size and each model is like 120 units. So it's a lot easier. If you want something, just let me know and I'll try to stock it. You can see it. If you like it, we'll send it out to you. We got our third OC6 on Sunday. Monday, I put the primer on it, and Tuesday, yesterday, I put the 2 coats of topside marine paint on there, so it is painted and it matches the Canoe colors of the other 3 boats. And that Canoe, being so different in the spec canoe world with its shape and designs, I want to spend a minute talk about the different shapes and designs that go into all paddlecrafts. When we hear marketing for paddlecraft, an OC1, a surf ski, a SUP, whatever it is, you are usually hearing that from the perspective of the person trying to sell it to you, right? And so what happens is they embellish all the positives of the craft. It can go in flat water, excellent. It can surf in the ocean, excellent. It does everything, excellent. But just like everything, it is always on a sliding spectrum. When it does one thing well, it takes away and detracts from another idea. When you can understand the shapes and designs that influence where a vessel is going to lie on the spectrum, you can make a better informed decision based on these characteristics and what you're going to use the paddlecraft for. Understanding the spectrum, these designs, and what you're going to use it for helps you make more informed decisions. If you're influenced only by marketing, right, you usually are not going to get the best product that you possibly could. So designs that help a craft cut through very still, calm water and get the most amount of glide is typically the opposite designs that are necessary for surfing waves easily and having an extreme amount of maneuverability in these environments. And a paddlecraft that tries to do both takes away from the extremes. If you are purely on flat water, a versatile craft isn't as good as it could be. And if you are bombing down mega giant swells, it is not as good as it could be because of the shapes that take away from each other. So looking at my OC6, so we have a Dennis Campbell. It is either a Rhino or it is a Pacific Islander. If you can look at images of my boat and tell me, I would love that. This design is all the way back in the 80s. I'm on a Canadian OC6 history website. looking at photos, trying to figure out what kind of boat I have. And it's not very clear. A lot of this stuff predates the internet, and when the internet came out, people apparently had phased out of these canoes, so there are very limited photos and things of that nature. The other two canoes that we have are the Mirage and the Force 5, and they are much more up to date, right? They came out closer to the 2000s, so they're very similar to like a Bradley Lightning and most of the spec canoes that you are going to find within the racing world. So one of the first designs within all paddlecrafts that is going to influence its ability to surf well, its ability to be maneuverable, in contrast to its ability for flat water glide, is the rocker of the vessel. The rocker is the banana shape from the nose to the tail, and the higher up the nose and the tail, the more rocker, and the more flat and level this is and the less banana shape it has, the less rocker it has. So when you are trying to knife through and cut through flat water, less rocker gives you more waterline, which gives you more glide and ability with the hull in a straight line. The more rocker that you have, the less of this waterline that you have, so your glide potential diminishes. In contrast, more rocker means the nose and tail aren't in the water, so its ability to turn and be maneuverable is much greater because there's less of these things dragging on the surface of the water. Something with a very low rocker line has the nose and tail deeply in the water, and as you start to turn and deviate off course, the canoe is fighting you. It is designed to go in a straight line, and as you try to turn, it is going to be much less maneuverable. So flat water, straight line output, no rocker is great. When you are trying to surf and turn and make all of these maneuvers, right, having a rocker line helps. So the Mirage and the Force 5, like most spec boats, have a lot of rocker on there. The nose and tail are very distinctly out of the water. This boat that I have now, the nose and the tail are very deeply implanted into the water. So it likes tracking in a straight line, and it feels very similar to an unlimited canoe that has a little bit more of this flat water design built into it. The downside is making a 180 turn is almost impossible in the thing. By the time I get to about 90 degrees, all of the hull speed is gone. Because the nose and the tail are digging in the water, these turns are incredibly difficult, versus with the Mirage and Force 5, by the time you turn and make a 180, you still have some momentum left. This craft, as you try to make turns, is incredibly arduous. So the last point that we'll talk about in this video, because I could talk about boat design for the rest of my life, when we look at how the hull is shaped on the bottom, the new Dennis Campbell boat that we have comes down to a point like so. So it looks like an upside down pointy pyramid on the bottom side of the hull. Most paddlecrafts, especially outrigger canoes, are going to be incredibly rounded on the bottom. Being rounded gives it less wetted surface area as it goes through the water. The cost of this is the craft is much more unstable, but it also cuts through the water more effortlessly because of less drag. With outrigger canoes, most hulls are incredibly rounded because the instability of the hull is inconsequential because you have an outrigger that is attached to the side to counterbalance this. This is what makes an OC1 so difficult to use without the AMA, is the hull is incredibly aggressive in its shaping, knowing that it is going to have a support arm on the side. Looking at things like surf skis, you will see more hard edges built into a surf ski because it needs some built-in stability within the hull itself. So when we look at this OC6, it has these points on the bottom that cause more drag than a rounded bottom, and you still have an outrigger on the side. So it has less rocker, which increases the water line, but the shape of the hull increases the amount of wetted surface area that is there, so it doesn't glide quite as well as some of the other crafts. So with a craft like this, once you hit a certain speed threshold, it glides incredibly well, right? You overcome some of this wetted surface area on the bottom, but it is not very forgiving. If you have a novice crew that isn't able to push the boat over the hump, it makes it incredibly difficult to wield the craft. So it's like a high risk, high reward style vessel, right? If you put a very strong group in there, it's potentially the fastest boat that we have in our lineup. But if you put the weakest crew in there, it is the slowest craft that we have. Overcoming that water line and overcoming that hull shape on the bottom is a lot less forgiving than something with more rocker, less wetted surface area, and the wetted surface area is much more rounded. Those are two designs that go into the influence of the craft. If you guys want to see a full video breaking down more shapes and more designs so you guys can make informed decisions, feel free to leave a comment or send me a message. Thank you all so much for the ongoing support. If you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to leave a comment below, and we'll see you all next week for the next episode of the K2N vlog. All right, everybody, welcome back to Lake Hernando. So this is the dragon boat oar that we stick into the back of the OC6 to give us this cool footage and it's a 9-foot oar if you haven't seen it before. So this is the Rhino or the Pacific Islander. Don't know which boat it is exactly. And you may notice here on the side that that is a rainstorm that is coming towards us. There's no lightning in it, fortunately. And we saw it up there, and sure enough, the wind was coming our direction, so was the rainstorm, and boom, here it is. You can see our little lake is starting to look pretty choppy. These little swells here developing, white capping, and having a canoe with extra weight means that we get a little extra momentum. So going into the wind here, our giant OC6 has the advantage. So you'll see my wife struggling to keep up with us as it was gusting. This is probably 30-ish mile-an-hour gust or more, and very lively out here on the lake. Again, when it's white capping, that's pretty big news for us here. And you can see the rain isn't that vicious. The GoPro lens doesn't get too messed up. And you can see the blue right behind the clouds. So typical Florida weather. At the end of the video, I'll point out that it looks like a totally different planet that we're on because it's so blue again. But we had to survive this little onslaught of wind and rain. So the wind is going to influence the steering. You see me poking a whole lot on the left there. And then, all right, so we're making a right-hand turn, and this is probably a 150-degree turn I have to make. So I poke and crank, holding it as long as I can, and the boat speed stops, and we're still not going around this buoy. And then I start doing left draw strokes to start building up some momentum. Ray is in the OC1 and the REs, and he is making this turn. And I'm still like halfway through this turn, and I have to go back over and crank a second time, fighting the wind, fighting the hull shape to try and spin the sucker around. Then I go back to the left and do a post and draw stroke, and I am just frantically trying to turn the sucker, and then back to a right side poke, and now at long last facing the direction that we want to go. So you can see how far off to the side that we went comparatively to the OC1. And I added this little bit of the tailwind because it's still raining, the wind's still blowing, and I feel like we surfed a little wave here. It was a really good feeling. It's coming up here. You can start to see it in front of seat 1. We're starting to catch up to it. Look at that. We are surfing a wave here on Lake Hernando with the OC6. Is it enough to actually be surfing? No, but it's the thought that counts. This is as good as it gets for us. And the canoe's going all over the place. It wants to spin to the left back into the source of the wind, so I'm really trying to fight it, try to keep the thing going straight. So really tough. So this is the sprint at the end. We do about 400 meters here, and you can see the canoe speed is gliding much better. It's a lot easier to handle, control, and once you go over a certain threshold, this thing starts to really jump and fly through the water. And again, you can see this is the same day. This is like 30 minutes after the footage previously. And you can see it's nice blue, super calm again. So that's just typical Florida for you. And we're charging through. Ray and Cressida beat the heck out of us on our 5K with the turns and the loops. But on the straightaway here, we start to pick up the advantage. We're hitting 8 miles an hour with this team, which is actually pretty good. And able to really push the canoe as hard as we could here. And so if you're able to hold a certain speed threshold, this thing really comes alive. It moves very well. And if you're under that threshold, it is a real fight. And so it'll be something that we'll have in our arsenal. We'll be able to do some musical chairs, get some more intel on how it responds. But first impression, there's some potential here. And we're excited to have more seats to keep growing the sport here in Hernando. If you guys have any questions or anything that you'd like to see here on the vlog series, feel free to leave a comment, send a message. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next week.